especially with first-time home buyers, they might be really confused on exactly what they should do and exactly what they're getting into. So it's really just about setting both parties up, seller and a buyer, for absolute clarity on what I'm going to do, how long everything's going to take, and what they should expect from me and what I expect from them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Closing Table Podcast brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat. Before we get started today, if you could please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a written review, that would be so helpful to us. It helps us find more awesome listeners like you. Okay, now to today's conversation. I am here with Anthony Ramirez with Key Realty out of Rockford, Illinois. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Kat?
I'm good. Thank you for being here with me. Let's start at the beginning. How did you get started in real estate?
So that's a great question. I tell people this story a lot because I think it's a little bit interesting. And I basically started doing a couple of odd jobs out of high school. One being I was a Dr. Pepper distributor. I worked at the YMCA, and then I eventually started working at Target. Well, actually, before that, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that, I was in college. School was never for me, but I was actually kind of pushed into it by my parents, which everybody really is. And it wasn't going well at all. So I went to my mom and I said, look, we're both wasting our time here, time and money. And I think this is not for me. I'm going to find something really enjoyable for me to do. But right now, I don't have an answer for you, but I'm not going to school anymore. So anyway, then I went to the odd jobs, whatever. And then I started working at Target. And while I was working at Target, I started getting into business. So at the same time as I was working, I would be listening to mainly real estate podcasts. I wanted to be a real estate investor. Then I thought the best way to learn about that would be to actually understand real estate. So I figured the best way to understand it is actually selling it. So then I had a really bad day at work where I was pushing carts outside and it was like negative 20. My eyelids were frozen and I decided that I kind of wanted more for my life. So that night I went and bought my real estate course and then quit my job shortly after that. And then I've been doing it ever since. That was about 2 or 3 years ago. It was 2021.
Wow, that's a really cool story. Talk about kind of like jumping off without a net, right? You didn't keep kind of the comfort and safety of a job, while you pursued your license, correct?
No, I actually did. So I quit.
Oh,
I
okay.
quit there and joined. I worked at Amazon, but it was
Ah,
really Amazon's heavy on hours. So, but you can work
mm.
shorter amount of days. So I worked 3 days a week, and then 4 days a week I would grind real estate. So I was working 7 days a week, about 10 hours a day for 2 years. I think at the very beginning of last year I went full time, and things have just been a lot better since then. So I've been full time for
Wow.
actually probably about a year. Yeah,
Congratulations. That's an awesome
thank
achievement.
you.
How did you know when to make the transition to go full time?
It's actually funny because I think I almost did it at a time where maybe others wouldn't have. So I think I was 21 to the HR department, and you can basically take a leave of absence for however long you want. To actually not however long you want, but you can take it for maybe about 60 days. So I took a 60-day leave of absence, and I told myself that during that 60 days, I'm going to eat, sleep, breathe. Like I'm not going back to this job. So I worked those 60 days, came back, and I was gonna work like a day or maybe like a full week, and it just wasn't. I had grown so much and done so much with my time, and really elevated as a person, and I just couldn't be around the old situation anymore. So I just basically told them that day that I'm not coming back anymore, and then it's basically how. So in all reality, Kat, it wasn't really like the absolute most ideal time, but I needed to take a risk in a life that I hadn't take really many risks yet.
That's awesome. I mean, I know about doing things like that too. I've definitely been at jobs that were taking more than they were giving, right? And you have your dream and you're so close to it. You were doing it half the time, right? So I definitely understand the impetus to like want to make that shift to do it full time.
Yeah.
Did you have any mentors on your real estate journey? You said you were kind of working all these different jobs. College wasn't right for you. Was there anyone in your life that kind of pushed you towards real estate?
Not particularly. No, I think I just really enjoyed it. Like just what I was consuming, I guess. Just learning about it, and then like every entrepreneur I read, Rich Dad Poor Dad. like everybody does when they first get started. So that kind of sparked a little bit. And to be honest with you, I think subconsciously my parents did 20 years of side jobs on top of their regular jobs in people's homes. So like repairing different miscellaneous things in people's houses. So I think I just kind of subconsciously enjoyed being around that sort of, you know, not that they were in real estate, but they were, always in homes. So I got to see different people's houses, and because I would go with them, I think subconsciously that was part of it. And the other part is I just became really obsessed with the world of business. So, and I always wanted to be. I remember as a kid, I always wanted to be in business in some sort of way. So it just kind of worked out that way.
That's awesome. And it kind of sounds like your parents maybe modeled for you that hard work mentality that maybe, got you through this time where you were working 7 days a week.
I owe everything to them, and also when I was taking my test, yeah, I just everything that I have in my life is because of my parents. And in 2021, I didn't pass the test a couple different times, and on the third attempt, I was really ready, and my dad had triple bypass emergency heart surgery, so that kind of pushed me back too. But I will say, once I did pass the test, after I felt like he was all right, it definitely motivated me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear he's
Yeah.
okay. That's intense.
Yeah, no, he's more than okay now. He's back to running, and
Oh,
yeah, so
good.
he's doing all right. Yeah.
So, kind of speaking to the mindset, like it sounds like you've kind of always had this entrepreneurial mindset. Can we like talk about maybe like some specifics there?
Actually, when I first got into real estate, I was thinking that I said I don't really have any moments in my childhood where I'm not like the average, I guess, person that started their own business where they were younger and they were selling maybe food out of their locker to kids, or they were like having a lemonade stand. That was never me. I think I just always really enjoyed having a goal and working really hard towards it, and almost look at life like a progression, or like maybe even like a game, and just seeing how far I can push myself. And that really fascinates me, like seeing how far you can progress as a person, because I don't think anybody wants to really stay the same sort of person in any aspect for their entire life. So I think that's more of it, is I really just became really involved in bettering myself. So I think that's kind of the sign I can point to. I used to be in sports and basketball and stuff, so that kind of goes towards it. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think I ever really had a moment. I just think I really would see people, I guess, growing up in that sort of world, and always be kind of fascinated with that kind of idea of a life.
And was it what you expected it to be? Like, was the picture in your head of being, an entrepreneur what kind of manifested for you?
Yeah, it's a lot better now that just things are a lot better in my business. I think when I was working 7 days a week trying to grow in real estate and also a job, I think it was a little tougher then. But now that I can create my own schedule, and really it's all up to me whether I do well or don't do well, I think it's better than I expected. I've never been really the one that, I guess, liked to be in a box, or really liked a certain set of guidelines that I had to follow. So this is perfect for me.
Yeah. And what, like, mindset wise got you through those 7 days a week? Was it just knowing that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, or was there something kind of specific that drove you during that time?
Yeah, I want to retire my parents and everybody else in my family, and I don't want to work for anybody. Those are really the two. I don't want
Wow.
to work for anybody.
I mean, that's like a powerful motivator, and especially when you involve other people in your dream.
Yeah, like I was in the moment. I think I thought deeper than just retiring my parents. Like I want to just take care of everybody, not like you know acquaintances or anything like that. I just mean everybody that's really close to me. I want to make sure they're taken care of. So it just really motivates me.
Totally. So, since your kind of original draw into real estate was real estate investing, have you had the opportunity to do any of that so far?
So far, actually, I own my first property, and I bought it actually a while back, really early on. Actually, funny enough, my first deal was my own house.
Oh,
Yeah, so I fixed it. I was completely rehabbed in what it was, and shortly here, I'm sure this year or early next year, I'll buy another one and rent this one out. So that will be my first kind of taste of it.
awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So, in looking at some of your social media, like your link tree and things like that, one of the things I saw that you offer for potential clients is a consultation, and I was wondering if you could like walk us through what goes on during that consultation. I know you have different ones for buyers and sellers, so if they're really different, just we can pick one and start from there.
I guess for sellers, it's really about, well, first it's about qualifying them and things like that, making sure that, I don't want to really necessarily sit down with somebody and waste their time or also my time, because, either party doesn't want that. So obviously that's really the first step. And then when we sit down with a seller, it's really just about what my plan is and what I do to help my clients get their home sold for the best price possible and also with the best terms, and then see if we're a right fit. Because at the same time, I think usually the idea is that the client is the one that decides if this is the right choice, but at the same time I make it crystal clear to them that we are both going to decide if we're a right fit for me to sell your home. And I think that goes a long way with clients because it lets them know that I'm not just really there to make a dollar off of them. I think it shows them that I'm really in this to be a professional. And then for buyers, it's just a little bit differently. It's a little bit different. Just explaining what the state of the market is right now. Explain to them their options, how to best, in a competitive market, be competitive, and explaining what that means, like how you can adjust your offer to actually win and not get beat up all the time, like I think happens in this sort of market that we're in today. And then just explain. I mean, recently, like with the lawsuits and things like that, that's going to be something I'll have to add in to there as well. I don't know if you've heard about all this stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard a little bit. I know it's still like an active situation.
Yeah, so like that's going to be something to add in there, but really just setting them up for success in the market because a lot of the times, especially with first-time home buyers, they might be really confused on exactly what they should do and exactly what they're getting into. So it's really just about setting both parties up, seller and a buyer, for absolute clarity on what I'm going to do and how long everything's going to take and what they should expect from me and what I expect from them.
That's awesome. So I know like every situation is different, and so seller A versus seller B, your conversation would be differently, and same for buyer A and buyer B. But like, can we get maybe like a little more in detail, like especially maybe for sellers, like what do they need to do to prepare to work with an agent like yourself?
You're saying in terms of like getting the home ready to go?
Yeah, that or just even knowing maybe what their home is worth. How do they find that information?
Okay, I see. Yeah, so first I break down a pricing strategy with them, and
Hmm.
essentially it goes a little bit deeper than just what I'm going to price their home at. It's more the strategy behind actually attracting the most amount of buyers possible. So whether that be showing them the stats on where buyers are actually looking in their price point. So for example, if there's a home that's, let's just say, worth 150,000, all of the buyer demand is in that area, then that's probably the best possible scenario for them to list at that price because everybody that's looking between, let's say, 100 and 200 is specifically looking at the price point of 150. Then those are the sort of conversations we have. So basically, marketing 101 tells you that where all the demand is at is where you should probably be. So like different conversations like that, and really going deeper than just throwing a sign in the yard and expecting or hoping for it to sell, like really going into the specifics and going deep with them on what everything is like. And this is why I'm pricing it this way. It's not just because of me just pulling up properties. It's like even deeper than that. So different strategies like that is really, and explaining to them what days on market means. Like why does it hurt you if your property's on the market for a really long time versus the homes that sell in the first week? Like what's the difference between those two scenarios, and why does it seem like the people that sell their home right away get more money than you would if your property is sitting on the market for a really long time? So different strategies like that is what I share with them.
Yeah. So can we dig into that a little bit? Like, what is the negative aspect of your house sitting on the market for a long time? Like, why is that a bad thing?
So there's a couple of different reasons, but mainly, I guess, put into a scenario like this, if you and I were, we'll walk through it. If you and I were working together and you were my buyer, and we went to a property that you really, really liked, and let's say it was 350,000, and you walked in, and while we're there, it's first day on the market. There's a couple of agents outside waiting. There's cars lined up on the street. The property's in absolute mint condition, and you tell me you really want it, and you say, Anthony, what do I got to do to get this house? So I would ask you, Kat, well, since it's one day on the market, I mean, what kind of offer do you think we'd have to make on this property? And you probably say, what would you say? Let me ask you.
Oh yeah, no, this is fun. I would think I would have to offer above asking.
Exactly, right? You would think that you had to come really competitive because there's literally people waiting outside to come in when we're done. So same scenario, Kat. 90 days down the line, 60, 90 days down the line, we're in the same property. There's spider webs in the corner. There's tumbleweeds on the street. Nobody's been there for forever. You say, Anthony, I really like it. I don't know. I wonder why it's been on the market so long. And I say, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
Kat, what kind of offer do you think we have to make in
Yeah,
this
so then I
scenario?
could probably offer under
You would want a deal, right?
asking and yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the same scenario that I talk to my clients about. Is you want to position your home in a way to where you have all the leverage, and when your property's on the market for a really long time, you lose all your leverage.
And now, like on the other hand of that, say I am the seller and I'm not the buyer in this scenario, and my house is on the market for a long time. Like, what can we do to kind of like refresh the situation?
You're saying if you're a seller and the property's been on the market for a long time?
Yeah.
There's a couple of different things you could do. To be honest with you, there's three reasons a home's going to sell. It's price, marketing, and condition. So if I'm marketing the property to my 100% ability, and also if the condition of the home is still really good, then obviously it leaves it down to one thing, which would be price. That
Mm.
would be one adjustment. Let's say it's priced well, but the condition's terrible. Well, then we got to figure out what sort of updates have people been leaving us feedback on. And then marketing should never be a problem. So we'll just skip that one. But let's just say I wasn't marketing the home correctly, then obviously that would be the solution with that one. That's really only the three ways that a home can sell. And it's really telling, actually. Or let me put it this way: if you list a home and nobody shows up and there's no showings, then it's pretty overpriced. If you list a home and there's a bunch of people showing up, but you're not getting any offers, could maybe be a slight condition problem, or there could be a slight overprice. A very, one small adjustment could make all the difference. And then if you or if you list a home and everybody's showing up and everybody's offering, you hit it on the money. So that's really how you can tell. So those two things that I explained kind of coexist together.
Right. It seems intuitive when you explain it all like that, but I think real estate can be so intimidating for so many people, and especially with the how the market has been the last 3 or 4 years. It's been everywhere. Um, Going back to kind of buyers and going back to kind of mindset, how do you help people along who are maybe putting in offer on home after home, and maybe they're just not locking that in? Because I've known people who have had that scenario in the past couple of years.
You're saying how to win offers in really competitive situations.
Yeah, yeah. How do you help your clients get their dream home?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different. That's one of my most favorite things to do. Is negotiation is just really fun to me, and also it's even better when you can get the dream result for somebody. So this is like a very simple thing. This I'll get more deep here, but like one of the most simple things you can do is show up to the property very early and basically give them your strongest offer right away. That's the most simplest way. We can go definitely way deeper than that. The real way to have success in that sort of scenario is you call the listing agent and you figure out exactly what that seller wants to a T. Basically, okay, do they want to close now or like right away, or do they want to close? Do they have some sort of situation where they need to be in the property for a long time? So I don't know if you've ever heard of like a situations where like you might sell a home, but then you have to stay there after the closing.
Yes, I know someone who's done that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what if everybody else that's submitting an offer put a 30-day close, and that's all their clients want to do, but you give them a 90-day close? Or let's just say for some reason it's very important to them that they secure a lot of earnest money so that they feel secure, Okay, well then we give them the earnest money. It's pretty simple. Okay, I mean, whatever they want in the situation without actually giving your buyer a bad deal, is really how you go about it. So if they want, a stronger security deposit, if they want a longer or shorter closing date, if they want to, if there's a certain price they're looking at, obviously without extending my buyer too much, but that's really the way to go about it, is figure out exactly what that seller wants, and if it makes sense for the buyer, then just get the deal done.
I love that. I love all the details. Thank you for sharing. Um, so I guess like do you feel like you kind of network with other real estate agents in your area, get to know people so that they're kind of more forthcoming with how you and this other agent can best both serve your clients?
I would say it's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's actually something that I need to pay attention more about myself, because I think I really thrive at that, and I need to almost
Mhm.
double down on that, because a lot of the times I do make strong connections with agents just by presenting myself in a way, just trying to get, like you said, trying to get the deal done for both sides, and just being of help to people, or just being, I guess, genuinely, maybe even kind in a way. I think a lot of the times during business, people aren't even thinking those sort of things. So I definitely do network with a lot of different professionals, and it's definitely served me well. And when you do that, and when you present value to people, without expecting anything in return, they typically tend to take care of you. So I've had a lot of situations where, I mean, I just had one, a buddy of mine called me, or I called him, and I said, hey, I have a buyer that they might struggle a little bit because they have to do a home sale contingency. And I said, I know you always have a lot of deals off market. I said, what do you got for me? And then I just, stayed quiet. And he's like, well, and he told me like three or four different properties that he has off market. So now I'm going to most likely take my buyer to one of them. And then we're not going to have competition for my buyer. So that's the way to also serve my client, is by having better connections, because I don't think he's sending them to everybody. He's just only, he's not only telling me, I'm not naive, but he's probably telling a very few amount of people. So it serves you right to be networking outside of just trying to get new clients, because then you can service your clients, and also it could directly benefit myself too.
Right. Oh, that is so cool. Right. Because you just have to be the person who asks, right? Because maybe somebody else doesn't have the confidence to ask or is like afraid of the answer, whereas like you just went for it.
Glad you brought that up too, because that's been one of my, I think I used to be actually more on the shy side. And I think that's something
Hmm.
that I've really come into my own about, asking questions that people may be too scared to ask. I'll give you another example. There was a lender that was actually working opposite of me. So I was the listing agent. She was working with some other agent, and I really liked her approach to the process. And I called her up and I said, hey, I said, even though you didn't work with me or work with my buyer, I really appreciated your effort on this one. She helped me out with a situation too that she did not have to help me out with. And I said, how about we meet, for coffee? I want to talk to you. And then we sat down, and I said, the first thing I said was, what do I have to do to get on your short list of realtors that you send business to? A week after that, we actually got a deal together and closed it. And so I just try to ask the questions that people would normally ask. I don't think it would benefit me to not ask.
Yeah, that's so great. And literally anybody can do that in almost any industry, right? If you find someone you want to work with, just asking them like, how can I be someone you work with is so great because it gives you like if this person had said you have to do this, this, and this, you're like, great, I can I can do that. And then you're building that relationship and it only benefits everybody. That's so cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It seems like you've just picked up so much knowledge just by like trying things along the way, which I think is a great like mindset to have. Kind of you hear people talk about that beginner mindset and there's a little bit of like, fearlessness that has to come with that. What are some other lessons that stick out to you as like things learned along the way?
Well, that's a great question. What are some other lessons? This is a lesson that I think probably will be the best thing that I can always focus on, is by being very thorough all the way to the end of a deal when you're closing a client. Because to be honest with you, I tend to be very scatterbrained sometimes. So one thing that's been really beneficial in serving my clients is, even if something you think has already been taken care of in the process, just always, and this might be a very simple example, but it just has always helped me to be very thorough in every single deal I've done. Because a lot of the times with realtors, and I'm sure realtors will watch this, I think they've had a deal where they think it's going to be a really easy closing, and they go there and something blows up. Like a really bad situation happens, like maybe the client didn't know they were supposed to bring X amount of money to the table, or even something simple as an agent might forget to bring the keys, or just being very thorough as is a perfect lesson for me, because you want, when you get to the closing table, to for it to be a celebration for not only you, but for your clients, and have it be a very seamless process. So I think that's something as simple as it might be that has helped me out, is like just being very thorough all the way up until the end of closing, even after, making sure there's things that they remember to take care of in their property. They might be somebody who just bought a home. And I think it just helps to be thorough. I guess short answer. There's a lot of different things I could think of, but that's just something that really helps me.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could achieve that. Like maybe you're a checklist person. Like I'm totally a checklist
Me
person.
too.
And especially because I'm sure there's so many like unique cases in real estate. I'm sure no two houses, no two buys, no two sells are the same.
No, they're never the same. No.
Is Have you had any like big surprises throughout your real estate journey? Like anything that just kind of like jumped out at you as like something you didn't expect to happen?
I guess I didn't expect to pick it up as quickly as I did, and I guess that can actually lead me to a better example for a lesson. I think everybody should be, whatever they decide to do in their life, I think it really, really benefits you to be extremely curious, just as a person. So I think the reason why I picked up real estate and maybe other things in my life quickly is because of the fact that I'm extremely curious about things that I'm passionate about. So when it came to real estate, or just business in general, it didn't just stop for me at being surface level, like in terms of knowledge. Like I would read, instead of one book, I'd read 10 books about real estate. Instead of listening to one interview, I'd listen to 100, 200. Like I just really consume myself in this business, and figure out how to get better every single day. And I think it serves everybody, no matter what your profession is, to be extremely curious, because when you're curious, then it leads to questions, and then if you're still curious at that point, then it leads to answers. So you get a lot of things answered, and you become a lot better just by being simply curious about what you're doing.
I think that's great advice. Do you have any favorite like client stories? Like I love hearing like when an agent has like been working with someone who just like couldn't find a home and then they finally secure him a home, or just any kind of like stories you tell at parties.
I probably have a lot. I have a lot of weird, cool things that have happened. So I could tell
We'll
you,
take weird and cool
yeah, I'll give
too.
you weird and cool, and then while I'm doing that, hopefully I'll think of something. But there was my mom. My mom used to call this woman her grandma because it was like her best friend's grandma, right?
Mhm.
So she unfortunately passed away. I never met her, but she unfortunately passed away, and her funeral was in Kentucky. So my mom and my dad went to go to the funeral, and they bumped into her son-in-law. My buddy Frank is a older gentleman that's been in my mom's life for forever. And Frank said, "Hey, do you know anybody that needs to, or that do you know anybody that can sell a home in South Beloit?" She said, "Well, Frank, South Beloit's in Illinois. It's like 30 minutes up the road." And she said, "Well, Frank, you didn't know that my son does real estate." So we got together. I list that home. Then a buyer comes along that for some reason the condo community just didn't have an agent for them or something. So they sent me them. I showed them that condo. They didn't like that condo, and then one miraculously popped up on the market, which in that community they barely ever come on the market. It's a very a slow turnover because a lot of older people go there, so it's usually like a place people kind of settle down, so they're not typically leaving all the time. So
Right.
another one popped up. I sold them that one, and then they had a house to sell, and then it just became like this weird thing that all came from the funeral. So I ended up doing two deals with them, and then sold the original condo, and then after that, there's another woman I started working with. So it just became like this weird full circle thing that just happened because my mom decided to go to Kentucky for the funeral. So I just thought that was always a cool thing.
Yeah, it's kind of it's fun to see how kind of life weaves together sometimes.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess another thing I can mention was there was this guy. I mainly cold call for my business, so there was this guy. I cold called him, and we had planned on listing his property. A whole bunch of situations happened where basically, with tenants, um, I don't really want to get too deep into like the stuff that was going on, but basically, I've never worked with this guy in a professional setting ever. But he told me, I think it was last year, that his sister still had a property over here and she lived in Florida, and he ended up, referring me to work with her, and then I sold her place. But the reason that was weird is because it's like I originally called one, and that happens to me a lot of the times. Is like you'll call somebody, and just by presenting yourself as a professional and following up with them, where you'll get random times where they'll send you business just because they just like you so much. So it's like that guy, he may or may ever not work with me, but he basically likes me enough to send me, some business. So that those sort of things happen to me a lot, and I think I once I realized that, I doubled down on just being that sort of person for people and just really providing value to them. Because even if they never intend on doing business with you, they'll still try to take care of you in some capacity.
Right, right, because your name is fresh on their mind, because you took the initiative to put yourself out there, and whether it is cold calling or having an online presence or things like that, people are going to recommend the name they know, sometimes even if they don't know much about you. It's it's kind of genius.
Yeah, yeah. So that's happened to me. That happened to me another time where actually I called a girl. She's around my age, and she said, "No, I don't really have any intention on doing anything real estate related, but I own a cleaning company. I just started it up." I was like, "Okay." So I took down her number. Two of my clients, literally, is weird how life works, but you just have to put yourself out there. But 2 weeks later, I had two clients at the same time that were selling their home, and they needed a home cleaner. So I figured I don't know anybody else, so I sent them her way. She did a really good job, and then she sent me her neighbor out of nowhere that had to sell his house and then buy one. So it's like a lot of these situations happen to you just by really putting yourself out there and taking care of people. I sent her two deals. She made whatever she made on them, and I'd never expected anything from her. And then it comes back in return.
That's so like beautifully like symbiotic. It's like natural like networking, and it's like a community supporting each other's businesses. That's like the dream scenario.
That's one piece of. If you want me to give more advice for somebody, the best piece of advice is to really take care of people and just not really expect anything in return, and you always get taken care of, and even if you don't, you did something for somebody. So that's just the way I look at a lot of things. Even as simple as like the other day, I had a kid show up to my front door, and he was like really scared, and he really wanted to shovel my driveway. And essentially, it's not important, but essentially I just I gave him a shot. It was his first time obviously ever doing it, and I just really enjoy doing things like that for people. I don't know, it's just something I really like to do.
I think that's so important because you're helping foster, this young person's entrepreneurial mindset. Like I hated stuff as a kid where you were like, I don't know, maybe you were like Girl Scout or Boy Scout. You had to like, sell your cookies or your popcorn or, like go to door selling candy bars. Like it's so funny to like, be on a podcast and be on camera now, knowing how shy I was as a kid with those types of things. But I think if you have an opportunity to like teach a young person that they have value, that yes, shoveling, I value you shoveling my driveway, and I value the fact that like you took the initiative, like you did it scared. I think that's really important and cool. And so I love that. I love hearing that.
That's why I did it, because I don't know, I every time I see something like that, it reminds me of like the journey I've been on as of late, like with real estate. So I just every time I see that, I really just like to show those people that it is cool what they're doing, and instead of turning them away. And I think it's better to uplift people in that sort of scenario, because they're essentially, he might be thinking, maybe if I shovel a couple of driveways, I can take care of my mom and dad. So that's a really beautiful thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything you're looking forward to this year, either in your profession or maybe, outside of real estate?
Anything I'm really looking forward to? Um, Actually, yeah, my mom starting tomorrow is actually going to be my assistant in real estate.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to navigating that process, and I always like a challenge. And I think something that's always been challenging for me in my life is being patient when you're teaching somebody how to do something. So I think I always really look forward to somewhere where I can potentially grow in life, and that's something I think I really could use some growth on. So I think during the process with her, I'm gonna figure out how to be an absolute best leader, and which is gonna serve me later down the line when I don't only have her as my employee, when I have a bunch of people. So I'm really excited for that, and also kind of goes back to me trying to take care of them. Like if if I can basically generate enough deals this year and moving forward, then I can potentially get her out of her job for good. So that's something that I really look forward to.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so special. And yes, like it's going to be such a great learning process for you and kind of with someone who it's kind of you're comfortable with going on this journey with.
100%. Yeah. She's been the main supporter and throughout this whole, basically my whole life. Like there hasn't been somebody that's been more on me about things, but also for in the best way possible. So it's only right that I return the favor that she's given me, and I can't wait to get started, because I think with parents, I don't know how old you are, but I think parents in the generation that they're in, I think they still have uh, maybe limited beliefs on what's exactly possible. And I think people more in my generation have kind of opened up the floodgates on like what's really possible. um, People aren't doing the norm anymore. People are really stepping outside the box with things. And I think the other thing I'm excited for is she doesn't exactly know how well things are going. Um, or she doesn't really know if they're going well, or how well, or whatever the situation is. So I think it's going to be really important for me to show her like what's been happening, and then she can actually physically see it and have it be tangible for her, so then she could even inspire herself to to make progress in her life. And I think that's something that in the generation above me, that they don't really, I think everything was pretty cut and dry for them growing up. So
Yeah, and I love that you can not only, involve her in your business but involve her in the success of it.
yeah, 100%, yeah.
Well, Anthony, do you have any closing thoughts?
um Not particularly, no. I just appreciate being on the show, and hope to be on again someday. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And Anthony, tell people how they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook at Anthony Ramirez. Key Realty is just one word. I'm on Instagram with the same handle, or you can, I don't know if I should put my phone my phone number.
Go for other people have. You guys are real estate
Yeah.
agents fearless. Anybody can call you.
Or you can call me at 779-200-0885. And if you need a home in Rockford, Illinois, or you need to sell a home, give me a call and I'd be happy to help you out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. And thank you all for joining us today. This has been the Closing Table Podcast, and I have been your host, Kat Schooler. If you are enjoying this podcast, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, give us that like and subscribe. It helps us find more awesome listeners like you. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time.